you could gay marriage. Obama was against it his first term.
Speaking of bringing up the rear, yes, he was. But that was a political move. That was because he thought that politically,
but it reflected
too soon.
Of course, because it was. Because it reflected where the people were.
Yeah.
My point being that people just don't grow up overnight. Society doesn't.
It does.
Mores don't.
But for God's sakes, it's time. It's 400 fucking years that we've dealt with this.
Oh.
And our country still has not taken responsibility or accountability.
For what?
For the history of the systemic racism that's in this country.
What should we do more?
Well, I mean, for one thing, critical race theory, I think, is essential to be teaching.
It depends on what you mean by that.
Well, I mean teaching how the race trade and racism is systemic in everything we've done in government, in social activities.
Yes, it has been.
I mean, it's embedded in it.
It's like, for example, why the Second Amendment really was, I mean, this is one person's theory, but I think it's the truth. The Second Amendment really has to do with, in a country where you were keeping hostile people in chains, you needed guns you needed very loose reins on guns to keep the lid on that.
Yeah.
So that has a lot to do with why other countries don't have like a Second Amendment the way we do.
And we didn't have an organized army. We didn't have an organized militia, so you had to form one quickly and be able to get your arms quickly when we were being attacked.
Exactly.
So,
but critical race theory can mean it's just one of these catch-all terms. If you mean we should honestly teach our past, of course. If you mean more what the 1619 book says, which is that it's just the essence of America and that we are irredeemable, that's just wrong. It's not.
I mean,
okay. Right.
I agree with that. But even teaching our past and being honest and owning up to who we are as a country and the history of it.
Most schools are doing that. I mean, I'm sure there are ones in Texas that are not.
Look, in Florida, they want to do away with critical race theory in a lot of other states.
Because sometimes it veers off into things that are really not appropriate in schools.
So how do you govern that?
If you're telling 5-year-olds that you're either an oppressor or someone who was oppressed, you're introducing ideas about race that are inappropriate for kids that age who can't understand it.
Okay, so common sense would govern
Common sense
that.
is what's lacking in this country. That is why people wind up passing laws about that. And yes, you're right. Very often the laws go too far. But it's not coming from nothing. It's coming from things that have started in colleges and very far left woke thinking that many people feel is not appropriate in schools. I mean, the same thing with gender stuff. Can they just be kids for a minute?
Right.
Okay.
And that's absolutely. And we have to find that time, that level of maturity when a child can understand that at certain times in this country's history, there was a grave mistreatment of other human beings.
I think we get that.
Well, no, we don't get it. What do you mean you get it?
Really? You think that is not something that is now widely understood and agreed?
Yeah, it's definitely not widely understood.
That America has a sorry racist past?
It's talked about and whispered, but they don't know it.
Whispered?
Yes. The Jim Crow laws? So
that's 100 years
Emancipation
ago.
Proclamation
I know.
in 1865. It was 1965 or in 1964 when the Civil Rights Act was passed by LBJ.
But this is 2023.
It took 100 years.
I know, but
is my point.
Can we live in the year we're living in? You don't think?
Of course, you live in the year you're living in.
Okay, well, the year we're living in is not.
Drive me to drink.
It's not what you're describing. You're describing in America, yes, that I think most right-thinking people would agree was deplorable in so many ways. No, I'm good.
You good?
It's tasty, though.
It is good.
It's very different, and I like it.
It's a little
So
smoky,
that's
but not
because
too
it's
smoky.
mezcal
It's
and
mezcal and not tequila, because it's smoked and not steamed. Yeah. Anyway, what were we arguing about?
well, probably the Golden Globes, which you sound like you should be making.
Hello.
No, I just
Golden
think we
Globes.
need to live in the year we're living in, and acknowledging progress is not saying the past isn't horrible or that we're done and there's no more work to be done. It's just being realistic about where we are today. And where we are today is nothing like the times you're describing, as bad as they were. So you. I mean, this is, I
Right.
think, a problem with a lot of the left. They seem to be obsessed on the past. The past is important. It's not
Then
the
teach
only
it.
thing.
They teach it like the Holocaust. You
I
want to be
think
able to
most
teach it.
places do teach it. There are places.
No.
There are places that go too far on either side. Can we agree with that? But I bet you most places in America. I mean, again, this is 2023. The people who are doing the teaching are of a generation that is not mostly interested in suppressing the past or being racist. I mean,
I disagree with that.
well, then you don't watch a lot of the videos that they themselves post.
They themselves.
Teachers and educators, trust me, they're hyper aware of race. If anything, it is injected too much into everything. But you sound like you're more in the Hollywood woke camp, and
I'm not
that's
saying
fine.
that.
It doesn't mean we have to.
No,
like,
it's like it's a humanistic camp. I want. Did you know when you were a child? Did you know that segregation was all through?
again, when I was a child, was the 60s.
Yeah.
This is 2023.
When-
you keep
when
going
the-
back to like
Yeah, but
how
Bill,
it was.
it's
as
still
if the same
present.
people. It is still, of course. You know what? Racism is always going to be present in not just white people, but in all people, to a certain degree. You can't completely sanctify human nature. It's just what it is. It's tainted. We try to extirpate it as much as we possibly can, but we can't. Certainly, it's a great thing that we've passed most of the laws that you would need. I mean, discrimination is illegal, has been for a very long time. Obviously, it'll always be fought in the courts and so forth. But I mean, as opposed to these errors you're talking about, when it wasn't even the law. Jim Crow, yes. Before the Civil Rights Act, yes. But that's a long time ago.
So,
And
let
you
me ask
seem to think that the country in 2023 is populated by seething racists who are unaware of our past and the obligation we have to do better.
I do agree that there are people who want to move forward without looking at the past. And when you move forward without looking at the past and course correcting, you're in trouble because it can happen again.
Well, can't we do both? Can't we
Look,
be
let me ask you a question.
cognizant of the past
Yes,
and move forward?
yes, you can. Let me ask you a
And
question.
Hey, thanks for watching the clip. Hit the subscribe button now so you never miss out on our Club Random content that's posted daily.